They had court in here and just got finished, so we can do our business. So this is the January 9, 2023 McCracken County Fiscal Court meeting. And Madam Clerk, will you call roll, please?
Commissioner Abraham?
Present.
Commissioner Jones?
Here.
Commissioner Bartleman?
Here.
And Judge Clymer?
Here. And Commissioner Bartleman, you offer a prayer, please.
Let's pray. Father, we just thank you for the blessings of this day. We thank you for the opportunity that we have to serve this county. And as we look to the future of this year, Father, we just pray you be with us as we make decisions that will further the quality of this county and make it a better life for all. Father, we pray for all our first responders out there who are protecting our safety. Be with them, give them safe travel and safety as they perform those important duties for us all. And Father, we're just so thankful for what you do for us. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right, we stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to its republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Before we get into the meat of the agenda, I wanted to introduce, as they say in the shows, the man who needs no introduction, but Richard Abraham, our new commissioner on the McCracken County Fiscal Court. Richard's known to most, if not all, the residents around here from his background as a city commissioner, and excited about having you here, Commissioner, and I think you're going to be a good asset for us and bring a lot to the table, so we look forward to what you have. Anything you want to say would be at this point?
Well, I thank you so much for those words, and I look forward to serving with the court. I've always considered it an honor and a pleasure for the citizens of our community to show that kind of trust in a handful of people to make sure things are run correctly. I always say the most important asset in the city and county are its residents, because they're the ones who pays the bills. As long as we keep that in mind in the relationships that we build, I think we'll be okay. So this looks like an all-star group right here. So I'm excited about it. My job is not to mess anything up, right? Is that it? We'll see.
Now, you said that.
No, I know, right?
All right, so get into the meat. First, we need a motion on the consent agenda. Approve it.
Second.
It is ordered to approve the consent agenda for the January 9th, 2023 McCracken County Fiscal Court.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Budget transfer.
It is ordered that the necessary cash transfers in the amount of $225,000 be made in order to pay county bills and payroll approved January 9th, 2023.
So
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Accounts payable.
It is ordered to approve the voucher claims register from December 12th, 2022 to January 9th, 2023 to show county bills in the amount of $1,054,313.82 were paid.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye. Opposed, no. That carries. All right, then we have a discussion on the opioid settlement issue. Mr. Doolittle, you going to address that?
I'd like to ask Steve to come up as well.
Okay.
I attended a meeting, so that's why I'm doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So, due to the national opioid settlement, Kentucky is getting $800 and some million, $840 million. About half of that is going to local governments. Our previous announced share was, I want to say, 774,000-ish, plus or minus. and we had 13 years to, that'll come in over 13 years. There is a formula for who gets what. It's not entirely based on population. Steve was noticing that in a adjoining county half our size was maybe even getting more money than we do. So they've got it somehow tied to the size of your problem. One of the things I did learn is the crisis. The further east you go, the worse it gets. So if there was a stroke of luck here, it was our problem in this part of the state. Wasn't as bad in other parts of the state. There's a state statute on what we can use the money for, and I think it's ultimately limited to 4 very broad categories: treatment, prevention, recovery, and infrastructure. And ultimately, we will have to decide which of those things and eligible expenses in those that we will want to spend our money on, probably on third-party providers that provide services in the community.
When you say infrastructure, do you mean infrastructure related to treatment?
Yes.
Probably.
Yes.
Let me ask another question. Is this $840 million the state got? Is that an additional to the settlement that we agreed to?
No, the original.
We agreed to a settlement some months ago where the Bryant Law Firm was represented us.
Yeah, it's
we agreed to a settlement. Is this
in,
separate from that?
No, I don't believe so.
So that our $774,000 is included in the 84.
Unless one of you know better, I believe it's our number is it's part of that. It's included.
Okay.
It's not separate from. Now our original was 774. Kentucky found out 3 weeks ago, that virtually the amount Kentucky was getting was doubling. There's some speculation, maybe ultimately more will funnel through local government. We have not actually received that information. We already know what the amount for the year that just closed for 2022, and I want to say it was 120,000 roughly in that amount, so that at any time we can collect that money and begin to disperse it. So what's on the horizon is we will have to decide what your priorities are within the allowable areas for us to disperse it, and decide how we're going to disperse that likely to partner agencies that work on this issue. There was some limited areas that Steve noticed where, like for example, if you had treatment programs in the jail, that might be some eligibility for us if we were doing those kinds of things in the jail. There was even something for first responders if there was a specific program. But it seemed like there was a lot of emphasis on recovery and prevention. So ultimately, we'll be needing you guys to decide what it is, and if we're going to be targeted with these funds, and how we're going to disperse them.
How long do we have to decide on how to spend the first $220,000?
We have not received the 2022 reimbursements yet, but there is language that money rolls over, so I don't know of a direct timeline. What we are doing at this point is maybe looking at a grant process that would align with the KRS statutes of what we can actually fund, and maybe doing an application process for the different entities within McCracken County to be able to apply for those funds, and obviously that would be your decision on how you'd want to move forward with those applications.
And will we get a check for $220,000, or is it reimbursement? We have expenses and be reimbursed.
It is a check.
It will
So we'll have
come to us
$220,000, then we decide we don't have to wait for a reimbursement after we spend it.
Well, one of the things I picked up on at one of the meetings was won't be just I don't think it's going to be a complete pass-through. I think they're going to put some responsibility on the county that you're using it for an eligible, or if you're working with a partner agency, that it's eligible, and that you're doing some level of monitoring to make sure the funds are being used appropriately.
I would imagine as part of that grant process, after you all made a decision on how you want to disperse the funds, we'd have a sub-recipient agreement with that entity and make sure that they report back to us on how they're spending those funds.
And you may have mentioned this, but nonprofits are eligible for us to fund if they do that.
Yes.
And can we set up a procedure where nonprofits might file with us? I mean, I guess we can do it any way we want, but can they
Yeah,
file?
so what we were talking about earlier, I think for the ease of our administration is for the fiscal court to figure out what your priorities are. Where do you want to put the money? Because when you look at, the state has provided us some information on what's eligible. And while there's 4 broad categories, there are subcategories underneath all of the broad categories. And it's pages and pages of things. So while we don't have an enormous amount of money, if you spread it out real thin, you probably lose your effectiveness of your funding. So we'd ask you to try to focus on 1 or 2 at the most categories where you think it makes a big difference. Yes, sir.
In situations like this, if you have, and I know we do here in this community, if you have agencies that has a high success rate, I think that would be something that you would look at a little bit more favorably, because over a period of time you have people coming into a facility, and as they get the training and they get the support and everything that goes with that recovery, they go out and you look at, okay, what's the success rate of this program? 65, 70%. You got to raise an eyebrow to that. They're doing something right. So I think when you start looking, you put it down and you look at measurable results. I think that's what you want to see if you're going to, because these dollars it's always so competitive when you get a lump sum of money like this, and you want to make sure that we're not just putting money out there. We want to make sure that we get the most bang for our bucks, because individuals' lives are at stake, not them, but their family, and to break that cycle. So I'm glad the funds are available for us to be having this discussion, actually.
We've seen the chart of disbursements. It was like 120 in 2022. And then I want to say it's roughly 50,000 a year. 30,000 a year going forward. It fluctuates up and down. So obviously the settlement didn't come to Kentucky in one lump sum. It's spread out over a number of years, and subsequently our resources spread out. So that will be another reason why you won't want to, spread it out over 10 nonprofits. It'll just be so diluted. It'll probably be difficult to even measure effectiveness if you're handing out $3,000 checks.
So, two Steves and I have had some discussions about what seems the logical way to go forward with it, and like Rich was saying, we want to see what their track record is, but along with that same concept, I think is this somebody that's been in the community providing these kinds of services for some period of time, because there are likely to be outfits that are going to pop up like daisies in the spring saying, hey, 774,000, we can do a lot of good with that. And not that they couldn't, but I do think we have some exceptional facilities here, nonprofits that are providing, and they've got great backgrounds. We know who they are, and they're headed by strong leadership. We don't have to worry about them, I think. But we will need to decide among those 4 categories. And frankly, I haven't had the time or haven't got to determine what's the difference between treatment and recovery. I'm not sure what that is, but so we'll need to decide at least one category. Perhaps we could do more than one, but I agree with what Doolittle's saying. We can make a bigger impact, I think, by giving the majority of the funding to, just a small number of providers, because I don't think we want to broadcast the seed across and the impact really not be seen or felt in the community. So it seems to me that we would, one of the first steps would decide which of these 4 categories, what do they mean, get some more guidance on how it can be spent, and decide which one, or if it's 2 categories, and then, like Steve was saying, or Steve Irvin was saying, we've talked about, should we kind of put together a grant application, and if we decide, for instance, say we want to address treatment, ask or send out for requests for proposals, grant applications for providers, and have the parameters that we want. We want them to have a 5-year history of providing services. We want to have trained staff, whatever they are, 8 or 10 or 12 or whatever parameters, and ask for them to apply on our format. That seems to be a smart way to me, but there might be other ways to do it too. And of course, we're just now getting into this, so I mean, we can chat about it now a minute, or we can, it might be something that's worth a workshop type meeting to go about it and see what we want to do. But I do think we need to decide first. We don't want to just say to the community, we got, $750,000 or whatever money to give to people to address the opioid problem, and let us know if you want any of it.
I think we probably need some input from some agencies too to know what their need is, because we really don't have the expertise within us to know. And the reality is too, if it's $774,000 over a 13-year period, or even if it's double that, I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money when you divide it out over all those years to do a whole lot. But I think we probably do need a workshop where we get select agencies to come in and tell us what they feel the needs are, who deal with this in the community.
To learn more, I would encourage you to Google Kentucky opioid response effort. There's a tremendous amount of information out there that the state's been populating that has good discussions about what they think is going to happen.
There is a map on that side also that you can click.
Yeah.
And it spells out in McCracken County which agencies actually take care of these core areas.
Okay.
Whether it's recovery or whatever, there's listed 3 or 4 different agencies that are already doing that within this county through other grants that they've received.
Yeah, that's a good one. Look for the map. Click on McCracken, and you'll be surprised at the number of agencies engaged in the response already.
What was that website again?
Well, it's if you just Google CORE, K-O-R-E, or Kentucky,
Okay.
Kentucky opioid response.
Yeah.
Is it effort?
Yes.
I got you. Okay.
Is the city also getting some money out?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, cities and counties.
Any other questions, comments on it? All right, we'll be moving forward on that then. So, all right, thank you. All right, and then we have a table from a previous meeting, item 5. Is there a motion to remove it from the table?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I will second.
All right. So all in favor of removing it from the table, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll remove it from the table. You drafted it. Do you want to take the lead on it?
Sure. And I think I circulated, Karen, I brought copies for you, just a slightly revised form to what you read last meeting. For those who weren't watching last meeting, this is essentially a resolution in which McCracken County is going to speak on behalf of its residents to the Kentucky legislative team, asking them to consider a couple changes while they're in session. and the changes in law and the changes deal with annexation, and specifically city annexation. This resolution identifies several problems that exist in annexation, particularly in counties our sized. It is a more troubling problem in counties that are over 30,000 in population than it is in counties below, and that is because of what happens when a city annexes property in a larger county. My neighbor asked me the other day, why do you care about it? Because I live in the city and he lives in the city, and he says, don't we both pay city and county tax on property tax on our property bill? And the answer to that is yes. And so a lot of people may, sometimes they know that, they think, well, I don't understand the issue. And I think I can best explain the issue by just simply telling you the story of what happened in a neighboring county, in Graves County, not quite 10 years ago, in which the city of Mayfield decided to annex the Graves County High School. And what happens when the city annexes property like the Graves County High School, or I don't know, let's say Menards or some major employer, well, yes, the county still gets county property tax, but in our county, because we're over 30,000, the statute says that the cap of an occupational tax, income tax, is 1%. So if you're a teacher at the high school, you're going to pay 1%. Well, when Mayfield annexed Graves County High School, basically the teacher's income tax doubled because the city is not capped at 1%. And for example, in Paducah, the income tax is 2%. So if the city were to annex a public school, all of those teachers would pay more tax. They would go from paying 1% income tax to 2% income tax. And so that would mean, either teachers make less money, or the school board's going to say, well, that ain't right. We need to pay the teachers more money to make up for the fact that the city has now annexed us. And so then who would pay that? County residents would then have to pay more taxes to make up for the city annexation. So it's a double whammy. Not only does the county lose income to the city, then the county residents have to pay more taxes in order to make up for the loss that happens from the annexation. So we're trying to get ahead of that issue. And we're asking in this resolution 2 specific changes in statute. One change is, please don't let cities annex public schools without the consent of public schools, of the school board. Because right now, nobody could say no. Unless they move somebody onto the school board property, there's no resident who could say no, provided it's adjacent and contiguous. So that's one thing, is to give the voters, the public, an opportunity to say, hey, wait a minute, we don't think that's a good idea. We're not going to get any benefit out of that. The second is to make us on an equal playing field with 3 other counties. Somewhat related, but a completely different issue. In 2021, the Kentucky legislature, and all these changes have to be made at the Kentucky legislature because courts are limited. This annexation is a creature of state statute, so the statute has to be changed in order to change the law. Well, in 2021, they did change the law. And by the way, all of our legislative team voted for this change. Not that that's good or bad, I'm just telling you they did. And this change affects only 3 counties, and those 3 counties are Whitley, Knox, and Laurel. Because of the way the statute was written, it only applied to city who would annex a city who lives or resides or occupies more than 1 county. Well, there's only 1 city that's really annexing that affects, and that's the city of Corbin. So in 2021, the legislature said, you know what? We're going to protect those 3 counties from city annexation, and they passed a law that basically says, city of Corbin, when you annex in those 3 counties, you've got to indemnify, or you've got to hold harmless the county budgets from whom you are annexing the property away from. And so we're asking that type of protection be applied to 117 other counties in addition to the 3 that was given in 2021. And I guess that's my speech for this resolution. So please vote for it. It doesn't change the law. It simply says this is what we as representatives of McCracken County are asking our representatives to help make change. And hopefully there'll be other counties who will follow us, and eventually our voice will be heard.
And so this is addressed to the state legislature. This is not addressed to the city of Paducah. We've been having some discussions trying to get them to do something similar, but this is through the state.
Yeah, this
change the law.
Right. This is a resolution, which means we're expressing our corporate opinion that we think we need this protection, and we think that Representative Bridges and Danny Carroll and others who were on the thing, we would like you to read our resolution, consider it, and think about proposing these protections for us.
And now you said you wanted to amend it in some way.
There was a typographical error in the one that's on the well, I think actually you corrected that, didn't you? Okay. There was a typo. So we had somehow, in what we had prepared, identified and confused who the Senate vote and the representative vote.
But we don't have that in here, do we? You talking about the name, the identity of the?
Yes.
We don't have. Now in mine, we took out all the identity of the people who voted and how they vote. We just have yays, passes, and not voting.
So that'd be fine. We could leave it that way because it's not really.
But that was the one that was tabled. It included all that.
Actually, I think you're right, Steve. I think the one, see Steve shaking his head, I think the one that actually got read is the one that's on our agenda now.
So you had 2 things. You had all the names, but you had Senate, the count for the Senate and the House reversed.
Yeah, right.
So Kara corrected that, and then we decided for time, we'll just do the yeas and nays, the count, and leave out all the names.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's already baked into the document you tabled.
Okay. So it sounds like we don't need to amend anything.
Okay. All right. So we got it off the table. We had some discussion. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
So how do you discuss, how does that work?
Well, if there's a second, then we'll discuss the content of it.
Commissioner Balderman, did he second?
You made the motion.
Second.
You second. So now we got discussion.
Okay. I was in my office at Kroger on Park Avenue, right in front of the rotisserie chickens, and this lady came up and she congratulated me on being elected to the court, fiscal court, and I thanked her very much. And she said, "Yeah, maybe you can do something about the city taking all our property." And I said, okay. And where did she get that idea? And so I read over Commissioner Jones's summary, and I'm not exactly sure what the relationship is with Laurel County and Corbin and the 3 counties that they border. I understand there were some great points in here because that is the governing body that will make a decision on whether to change how annexation is carried out. But for that lady to say that about this situation, I just want to make sure that our citizens don't forget the type of relationship we have with our municipal counterparts across the street. All of us in here know how we collaborated on so many different things that moves this county forward, whether it's the Community Scholarship Fund, whether it's the sports complex, whether it's the Barclay Regional. All of those capital projects move this county forward. And whenever a business opens in the city, that generates tax revenue for the county. And I think I totally understand that we have to watch the zeros on the bottom line. I get that. But I think one of the reasons that this community has moved forward and is envy, some other cities are somewhat envious of this end of the state of how we bring things together, is because of the cooperation. Now, if the guys in Frankfurt, if they change the rules, then we'll have to adapt with what they change. But since I was elected in 2000, which is crazy, almost 20-something years ago, whenever there was an annexation done by the city toward the county, it was all voluntary. Now, I don't know if the city and the counties that you referenced in your summary, if that was the case. Now, the other tool in the box is the sledgehammer. I mean, you can go and take it, and you can annex it forcibly, and the way the rule book is now, that's okay. You can do that. Like I said, the 20 years that I spent in city government, that was never the case. Voluntary is exactly what it is, and there are some wins and losses there on both sides. But I just want to make sure that as we move forward, we are so connected with our partners here in this community that that conversation that I had with that lady resonated with me, and I'm thinking we want to make sure that folks don't start dividing up things with that attitude. So those are my comments on the resolution.
Yeah, I think one of the concerns about public schools, particularly, well, I'm talking about county public schools, thing to remember, well, from my perspective, I live in the city,
Right.
so I want my city to grow and be prosperous. There are properties the city could annex tomorrow, and I would be, I'm glad they did that. Anytime they annex any residential house, that doesn't affect our budget as much. The biggest concern I have is the annexation of public schools, and I'm not just trying to create the issue. I think there's some legitimate reasons to be concerned about that issue, and I'm trying to get ahead of it both in the public forum and at the state forum, because it was county residents and county taxes that built those schools and has built the infrastructure that has developed around those schools. And then for the city to be able to annex, raise the taxes of the county employees, and then ultimately raise the taxes of the county taxpayers to offset those taxes, is just something that I think the legislature ought to be able to see and say, you know what, that's not fair. And for nobody to even be in a position to say no or even be up for an election is that's just a poor state for the law to be, and the law ought to be changed. And the Mayfield-Graves County case, which did go up to the Kentucky Court of Appeals, tells us quite plainly that the law needs to be changed. In fact, a friend of mine who's now on the Court of Appeals wrote a dissent in that, and I call it the magnificent dissent of Judge Jeff Taylor, in which he explains how he feels, how unconstitutional that type of taking is on the part of a city from what ends up being city teacher income or county teacher income and county taxes. With regard to the Whitley and Knox and Laurel County, I don't think there is a distinction between Corbin and Paducah, and If it's good for Whitley, Knox, and Laurel County, it's good enough. If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for McCracken County. That is just a provision that essentially, when the city does annex something, they have to hold us harmless from a budget standpoint. So that if, I guess the classic example would be if they annex an employer and we're making 1% of a tax on that, and they come in 2, then they would basically have to give us the 1 so that, from their annexation. They could still annex, but they just can't harm our budget.
So the example that you laid out in your summary, how did that annexation, was it voluntary, or was it forced?
On Graves and Mayfield,
Yeah.
there was significant objection to that. The county school system fought it all the way.
So that if the city of Mayfield wanted to take it,
They took it over the objection of the school board, but the school board did not have legal standing to object because they didn't have anyone living on the property, and the statute says you have to have a resident. And without a resident, there was nobody to vote no.
okay, so Laurel County, those other few examples that you gave, was it the same type of scenario?
So it is a different scenario. They're just talking, it's just a general protection that has developed in those 3 counties with state law, well, the state law created it, and that just generally applies to any annexation, whether it be consent, public school, or whatever.
Right.
It just says to the cities, you can grow, but as you grow, you can't grow at the cost of the county budget.
Okay. Again, the summary brought up some valid points, and the legislative body and Franklin would be the ones to change the rules. I just want to, as we move forward with the things that we have on our plate, that we are, interlocked with the city. That, and again, 20 years that's never happened. You stated that you wanted to get out in front of it because board commissioners change, fiscal court changes. I understand that, but I just want folks to keep in mind how well we do work together, and the great benefit that's come from that. Huge projects, economic drivers that we collaborated on because of that. And so I don't have a problem sending this to Frankfurt, see what those boys do with it. But again, we work really well with our partners here.
I agree with you. I certainly don't want the public to take my comments that the city is the enemy of the county. It is not. Not at all. But I don't want them to annex my high school.
Well, and there is one more point to all this that I think is worth at least mentioning, and that is that it's true that the city is not forcefully taking as they could. Like you said, Richard, they could just take the property over the owner's objection, and they're not doing that. It's voluntary, but it's voluntary in the sense that the city is sending to the business owners, let's say, Joe's Fish Shop or whatever. If you will agree to be annexed into the city, we will not charge you for 5 years any occupational tax. So they don't pay the county gets 1%, the city gets 2%, like Eddie said a while ago. We will not charge you any of that, so you keep that money, or you can pay your employees more and it won't cost you any more because of that. We will give you free garbage pickup, and there was, 1 or 2 other smaller things. And so in that sense, the city is creating some voluntariness, is incentivizing the voluntariness. For instance, my example I've used is somebody told me, hey, Clymer, would you volunteer to run around this courthouse? And think I'm going to. Thanks, though. How about if I give you $1,000?
Now you're motivated.
Yeah, here I
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna run, quarter of the way around the courthouse, get my $250.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'll make it the whole way and get the whole thing.
Well, I think I understand what incentives are and why you use them. And so at that point, it's up to that person that you're offering those incentives to, whether they want to take them, take you up on it or not. I think everybody has. I served with Robert Coleman for one term, and I always remember going into a meeting, and I'm sitting there, and I was totally green. And right before we walked in there, he said, "Now, Richard," he said, "keep this in mind. Everybody sitting around that table is looking out for their own best interests." And I'm like, okay. So we go in and we talk and we come out. There are challenges for the city, there's challenges for the county, and we have to weigh those out. And we have to weigh those out with a foresight of knowing that there's going to be projects that we're going to have to collaborate with them on. Again, this summary, totally understand why we would want to send that to Frankfurt to see if they could change the rules. And if they can, then it is what it is. Touchdown is 6 points, it's not 8. So I get that. But again, I think the reason that I'm speaking the way I'm speaking now is because, like the lady that came up in front of me at Kroger, I don't want folks having the idea that these guys, they're at each other's throats, or they're not trusting each other, and that starts an unravel. And economically, we can't afford to have that happen. So that's the whole reason I'm making the statements that I'm making. We can send this to Frankfurt and we see what happens.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good point. I mean, I think I talk to almost every city commissioner at least once a month, if not sometimes far more than that. Mm-hmm. It's certainly not a situation where, I mean, obviously they don't agree with me on this issue, but they're not supposed to agree with me on this issue. They've got a fiduciary duty to the city. But that doesn't mean we're not talking and agreeing on other issues. Judge, to your point, if the legislature were to apply what I call the Corbin fix to everybody, to McCracken County, that would take away the ability of a city to come in and offer, this, basically we'll give you some tax-free years in exchange for joining the city, because they would have to at least collect and hold us harmless on that.
Yeah. Well, then one other point that I think that doesn't get seen a lot is the fact that when the city offers, we won't charge you, let's just take the tax part of it. We won't charge you any occupational tax for 5 years. The county loses that. The city doesn't get it for 5 years, and so the entire community loses that revenue for 5 years.
And frankly, I think there's a violation of my equal protection there as a city resident, because now they've allowed somebody into the city and they're not making, I'm having to pay their way because of that incentive. And that seems like a violation of equal protection to me. But
well, of course, this, like I say, this is for the state to try to motivate them. I will say, since we're talking about our relationship with the city and the voluntariness and annexation and all that, that I did talk with the mayor last week, and he sees our concern. He sees that as we're working through all these projects collaboratively, we're being partners, paying halves and supporting each other. He does see why we would have some concern about, in the meantime, the city is going about taking revenue from us by these incentives, and so it's not, in my view, partners are partners, and you split things 50-50 and support each other. And I don't think the annexation is being living up to that partnership, but it can be seen multiple ways, I suppose.
I want to comment too. I think this is a good first step for what we need to do to protect us, but somehow we need to, my concern has always been that we lose potential revenue when the city annexes commercial property. Several years ago, they annexed some vacant fields that's now Menards. There was we got no revenue, no payroll tax revenue from that piece of property when it was annexed because there were no businesses on it. It was a vacant field, and we got property taxes. The city annexed it. They built Menards. Now they get $50,000 or $60,000 a year or more from payroll tax. That's money, if it hadn't been annexed, that we could have gotten. And our payroll tax revenue over the last 5 to 10 years has been pretty well flat. Has not increased because we don't have any commercial development because the city annexes all the commercial property. And I doubt if there can be any state legislation that would require them to share revenue, but I hope as we negotiate with the city that they understand our problem, and that when they annex commercial property that's developed, that for a period of time at least, that we get some of the revenue from that annexation. And we need to cooperate with the city on all these projects. The city wants us to go in 50% to help pay for these projects, but in the long term, we have no source of increasing revenue because they're annexing our commercial property. So I hope as we move down the line in the future that in this spirit of cooperation that we have, and it works well. We kind of snipe at each other every once in a while, but it's kind of like arguing with your brother or your sisters. But we still love each other. We still get along well. We still make progress. But somehow we need to come up with an agreement that when they annex property that becomes a Menards, that for at least a period of time, we get some of the revenue from the Menards property that we lost. So that's been part of my concern over it. And I hope the legislature responds to this. I think from what we've heard on briefings from legislators, they're not going to really deal with very many issues during this session, new issues, and that it may be a first step to maybe getting it on the 2024 agenda. I would hope they would take it up this year, but I think that would be hard to do. I think when Commissioner Jones and I went to Frankfurt last year and we met with Robert Stivers, the President of the Senate, it's interesting that this legislation was approved on counties that he represents. So he used his influence as President of the Senate to get that passed. And we have a majority leader in the House who, if he was of the mindset, could probably use his influence to pass this legislation to help us. But we'll just have to wait and see.
I think if he had the votes, in fairness to him, I think if he had the votes, he would apply the Corbin fix. He would apply it to all 120 counties. He just didn't have the votes to do it in all 120 counties. It should be. And all our guys voted for the Corbin fix, and I think our guys, I'd say guys, our team, would probably also support the Corbin fix if they felt like it would pass. So hopefully it'll get some discussion. The Corbin fix would eliminate that, I suspect, because of what they've done in Corbin, now the city of Corbin and all those counties will all have an equal incentive to develop areas outside of Corbin because it's not going to cost them. So they won't lose. Sometimes when I see development prospects right on the edge of the city, I think, how much money do we want to put in that because the city's going to annex it. So it puts everybody on the same page with regard to economic development. So.
There was a situation similar to that regarding a restaurant tax where certain cities in the state could impose that. You go out, they put a certain amount of money on tax you go out and eat at a restaurant, but certain cities cannot do that. And I think Elizabethtown was one of those cities that they created that tax revenue stream, and they used that for, a beautiful outdoor sports facility. And other cities were like, well, you did away with the class system, but that stayed. So I get that. I get that, and those are things that, I mean, you lobby Frankfurt to change that, and I think this is something that goes right along with that. Again, this is something that we have to, we'll lobby Frankfurt and see what they do. But until then, the rules are what they are.
That's right. Yeah. All right, any other discussion? Ready to vote? All in favor of the resolution, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, that carries. Court orders, we got a bunch.
It is ordered that pursuant to KRS 65.940, the decision of the Commissioner and the State Local Debt Officer to approve the General Obligations Bonds Series 2022 Barkley Regional Airport Project in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $3,065,000 will be recorded in the minutes of this meeting of the McCracken County Fiscal Court.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. B,
It is ordered that the Judge Executive be authorized to enter into a financial advisory services agreement with Robert Baird and Company Incorporated for financing the Barkley Regional Airport Terminal Project.
So moved.
Second.
discussion?
I've got a question, Steve, just to clarify to make sure I remember correctly. When we debated this before, that if we can pay this off early. Is that correct? If we were to have the
So
resources.
this one is structured differently because of the complicated issues. First, it's a drawdown. We'll only draw down what we need, and that was in the event some other source of funding appeared. The other one, it had no prepayment penalty. So if funds happen after the fact, then we can apply them to this.
Okay.
So there were sort of two protections we had. At this point, looks like we'll draw down most of the money. Though it was grossed up above what we already know. We do a plus or minus 10%. We did plus 10% to allow for change orders. There is one change order you will see tonight, but we still won't hit the max.
And if there's any money left over in the fund, we can use it for something else.
Right.
Okay.
For example,
wanna make sure I
we
remember
have
that
some other debt issues hanging out there.
We're not locked in that it's $3 million from Barkley Airport.
Nope.
However many years.
No, sir. We'll have to come back and amend our uses ordinance that we did, I don't know, a month or two ago.
Okay.
But other than that, yeah, we're wide open on it.
Thank you.
And if we use it and we spend it all on this project or another one, this one was structured on a 10-year.
Good, thank you.
Baird did tell me they reported excellent activity. Thought we'd have quite a few proposals. I think they're due tomorrow.
Anything else? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, no. That carries. C,
It is ordered to receive and record the fiscal year 2022 McCracken County Fiscal Court audit.
So moved.
Second.
any discussion? You want to discuss?
I would like to note on this one how unremarkable it is. When this 3/4 of this fiscal court came in, audits were 2 years behind, and when they were performed, there were lots of issues noted by the state auditor's office. Over the course of the last 3 years, I think largely due to the efforts of Pam Thompson and different policies that the fiscal court put into effect in the administrative code, we have really cleaned up the number of audit comments. In fact, one of the auditors from the APA's office said this is the best county she audits in terms of financial reporting. So that was a real testament to Pam's skill. I also really like to, he's not here tonight, thank the jailer, David Knight. Probably in those pages and pages of comments you used to see, half or more of them were jail. they've really improved their financial reporting at the jail. And that's a real testament to David Knight and to Lorinda for straightening those issues out.
I want to commend our staff, the finance office, and the treasurer for the good job they've done on that. When I read the summary of the audit, I was concerned. When I read the audit, I wasn't concerned. Because to me, a lot of these things in here are nitpicking. It's almost like, well, we spend a lot of time on this. We got to find something to criticize. And a lot of things in there, for example, some of the things having to do with purchase orders. I mean, you can't get a purchase order on a medical expense. I think some of the criticism was we didn't have purchase orders for some medical expenses for people in the jail. And how do you do that? Hold on, just hold your tourniquet, tighten it up a little bit while we get a purchase order so we can take you to the hospital. So I really think it's a great audit. And if we have another one like this next year, which we will, I'm perfectly happy. I think the treasurer, the financial staff, and administrative staff have done a good job to correct things that happened in the past, and the jailer also has done an excellent job. That's where a lot of the criticism was in the past.
If we have a real good one next year, will you smile real big? Yeah, already.
We're going to have a picture taken.
Well done, Madam Treasurer.
All right, let's see. Did we vote on that?
No.
Okay. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, no. That carries. C.
It is ordered to receive and record the executive order of December 22nd, 2022, which closed the courthouse due to hazardous weather.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. E.
It is ordered to pay Jamie Husky, McCracken County Clerk, $10,186.50, one half of the sum of 33,955 bills at 30 cents each as the county's share of the clerk's compensation for preparation of the 2022 real estate and tangible tax bills. The state will compensate an equal share per statute KRS 133.240.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, no. That carries. F.
It is ordered to approve December transient room tax in the amount of $357,044.55 to be dispersed as follows. Paducah CVB, $105,411.31. Convention Center, $71,221.68. Sports Tourism Commission, $108,248.07. Escrow Fund, $72,163.49.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? No comment? No? You going to resist?
Good numbers.
Good numbers.
I would say something here. I remember when we sat in that room back there at City Hall trying to separate the twins, and it was a lot of language changing with the I think with the final point of focus was creating a revenue stream to help get the sports commission off the ground and going. And I think that was a good move. And everybody that was, again, interlocal together, making sure that everything that one entity had agreed to do, it did that even though we were separating. It wasn't a backlash or anything like that. And it was a good thing. So this is good to see the revenue generated from that move.
Those were some fun and good meetings. Thank you.
All right, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. G.
It is ordered to pay the invoice dated December 15th, 2022 to Paducah Water in the amount of $262.50 for annual electrical cost of lighting on I-24 tank.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. H.
It is ordered to pay the invoice dated December 20th, 2022 to BFW for the Sports Complex project in the amount of $2,853. This is pursuant to the interlocal cooperation agreement dated September 7th, 2022 between City of Paducah, Kentucky, the County of McCracken County, Kentucky, and the Sports Tourism Commission. As per the interlocal agreement, the City of Paducah pays half of the invoice to McCracken County. Further, the treasurer is authorized to transfer $1,426.50 from the ARPA fund to the Sports Complex Project Fund.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries.
It is ordered to pay the invoice dated December 20th, 2022 to PFGW for the Sports Complex project in the amount of $103,097.25. This is pursuant to the interlocal cooperation agreement dated September 7th, 2022 between City of Paducah, Kentucky, the County of McCracken County, Kentucky, and the Sports Tourism Commission. As per the interlocal agreement, the City of Paducah pays half of the invoice to McCracken County. Further, the treasurer is authorized to transfer $51,548.63 from the ARPA fund to the Sports Complex Project Fund.
So moved.
Second. So the order says, well, I'll ask a question. The order says that we pay the invoice, but we're only paying half of it.
No, we pay all of it.
From last time, because the last time the wording wasn't quite right, so I made it what you amended it to, which is we're paying the entire invoice.
And then we'll recoup some of the money.
Yeah, we recoup half of it from the city.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I forgot.
Let's get Steve E. to kind of bring us up a little. Folks might be interested in where we are now. We're starting to spend some money, and getting things done. So can you give us a little nutshell of what's going on?
Yes, it's been about 2.5 months or so, 3 months since the interlocal agreement has been signed. Obviously, the Sports Tourism Commission immediately signed a contract with Peck, Flammer, Grimoire, and their entire team. For the first 8 weeks and then going on for the next 12 weeks, we were really into schematic design and test fit. And what that means is really starting to look at the size of the fields, for instance, multi-purpose fields, the orientation of those fields exactly, and then putting all that on a piece of paper that makes up the schematic design. So we'll be doing that probably for the next 8 to 10 weeks. After that, we really get into design development, and that's where we'll really start preparing the plans for bid documents, which will be many months down the road. But things are going well. We're on schedule and meet every Thursday. Both of the working group and the design team meet all day, all Thursday morning.
Any questions, discussion on it? Everybody good? All right, thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
And all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Where are we, Jay?
Yes. It is ordered to pay the invoice dated December 7th, 2022 to CMT for airport sanitary sewer extension in the amount of $3,228.50. This amount is one half of the total invoice of $6,457 and is pursuant to the interlocal cooperation agreement dated August 28th, 2021 between City of Paducah, Kentucky, the County of McCracken County, Kentucky, and the Barkley Regional Airport Authority.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Okay.
It is ordered that the treasurer is authorized to open a new bank account and set up Fund 88 entitled Opioid Settlement for the purpose of receiving and dispersing funds associated with the opioid settlement.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. L.
It is ordered that the judge executive be authorized to enter into engagement agreement with Stites and Harbison PLLC. The purpose of the agreement is for legal services related to the administration, planning, execution, and expenditure of American Rescue Plan Act funds received by the county. It is further ordered that the judge executive is authorized to execute all documents necessary to effect same.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries.
It is
Let
ordered.
me just add that Stites and Harbison, the reason, I think we all like to use local vendors when we can. However, Stites and Harbison has a particular lawyer or team of lawyers with high-level expertise in ARPA funds and how they can be spent. They're extremely engaged in that. They are, I think, at the very top of the game on this particular very detailed project, and so that's why Steve Dees talked to him some about this, and we were convinced that we could use some guidance to make sure we don't want to get this wrong, spend this money on something that we couldn't, and the money's gone, and now we got to make up for the difference. So. Okay. All right. M. Sorry.
It is ordered that the Judge Executive be authorized to enter in an agreement with Compass Municipal Advisors for Program Administrative Services to assist county with administering and dispersing federal funds received through the American Rescue Plan Act.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Ian?
It is ordered to pay the invoices listed below to Barkley Regional Airport Authority for the new terminal in the amount of $820,199.05. This amount is one half of the total invoices of $1,640,398.07 and is pursuant to the interlocal cooperation agreement dated August 28, 2021 between City of Paducah, Kentucky, the County of McCracken County, Kentucky, and the Barkley Regional Airport Authority. Invoice MCFC 121322 dated 12/13/2022, $937.50. Invoice MCFC 122222 dated 12/22/22 for $718,493.06. Invoice MCFC 122222D dated 12/22/22, $62,105.43. Invoice MCFC 122222F dated 12/22/22, $38,225.56. Invoice RBASH 25B dated 12/27/22, $437.50.
So moved.
Great job.
Was that a second, too?
Second.
Any discussion?
When I comment on this, in the past I voted against the appropriation of funds for the project because the previous invoices received were for artwork, and I didn't think that we needed to be spending as much money as we were on artwork. There's one invoice in here for a small amount of money for artwork, but I'm going to vote in favor of it, of this, because of the agreement to pay for the other things.
All right.
I could say, long meeting, I know, but 4 years ago, we were just starting. We had no idea if we could get an airport grant, and had no idea where we would come up with the match for an airport grant, and in 2 months, the airport terminal will be open.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
That's what happens when the community comes together, man. Make it happen.
All right, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Then we have a late order that we didn't get on the agenda.
Per approval by Fiscal Court on May 24, 2021, attached as Attachment A is the list of sheriff's employees whose pay will be adjusted effective January 8, 2023, related to civil process server ad pay.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Question about it or anything? We're good?
You worked this, who worked this one out?
So prior to two things happening, the sheriff ordinance and before we did timekeeping, they used to do deputies got so much per paper served. And that didn't work very well for our timekeeping. So with prior sheriff, we worked out a schedule that they'll be paid the next 6 months based on the number of papers they served in the previous 6 months. So that's why you see the deputies getting various and different amounts. So the Marilee read the order. There was reference to prior order, so that prior order provided the grid, if you will, for how much additional pay you get based on how many papers you served in the previous 6 months.
So in 6 months from now, we'll do another one of those.
We'll do this. And actually, Pam and I were talking earlier after we talked to Terry. I think the next time we touch the sheriff's ordinance, we'll embed that into the ordinance so we don't have to run these actions through the fiscal court every time. But otherwise, we'll do this twice a year.
Gotcha.
All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Board appointment.
It is ordered to amend the orders of reappointment to the Extension District Board approved on December 12, 2022 of Ellie Wagner and Nicholas Clark by removing the date of July 1st, 2023 and adding the date of January 1st, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Moving the date to July 1. So their board service is December 12 of 22 for 2 weeks? Is that, what's the January 1, 2023? Is that the ending?
Originally, they had it July 1st.
What?
It should have began returns January 1, not July. It was a typo on
It was
the
July.
order.
Oh, should begin January and not July. Okay, oh, okay. Oh, I'm okay, I see now. All right. See, did we have a motion and second already?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. B,
It is ordered that Eddie Jones is appointed to the JSA Board. His term begins January 1st, 2023 and ends June 30th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Ordinance,
It is hereby ordered that pursuant to KRS Chapter 65, the second reading and adoption of
67.
I'm so sorry. KRS Chapter 67. The second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2022-11 shall be conducted in summary format as follows. Commonwealth of Kentucky, McCracken County Fiscal Court Ordinance number 2022-11. An ordinance amending the McCracken County zoning and subdivision regulations set forth in McCracken County Ordinance number 2019-08 as amended by making revisions and amendments to the zoning regulations pertaining to permitted and conditional land uses in areas zoned as agricultural, commercial, rural residential, and urban residential. Further, this ordinance makes revisions and amendments to the zoning regulations pertaining to the Board of Adjustment, definitions, mobile home parks, parking signs, and stormwater conveyance and management. Moreover, a new section pertaining to recreational vehicle communities is added. Summary. The action effectuated in the present ordinance is authorized by and required by Kentucky Revised Statutes, Chapter 100, and operates to amend the McCracken County zoning ordinance regulations by amending definitions of home-based business, home occupation, mobile home park, and adding a definition of recreational vehicle community. Additionally, amending regulations pertaining to temporary, off-premise, and changeable digital signs. Further, creates a new section pertaining to the regulation of recreational vehicle communities. Moreover, amends the permitted use in the agricultural district by removing government buildings and facilities and government-owned parks and recreation areas and adds recreational vehicle community as a conditional use. In addition, adds recreational vehicle communities as a conditional use for rural residential. Further removes government buildings and facilities as a permitted use in urban residential. Moreover, adds recreational vehicle community as a permitted use within the commercial zone. Additionally, amends the regulations pertaining to requirements for parking surfaces and number of parking spaces, adds requirements for landscaping of parking areas, and adds enforcement and waiver provisions. Further amends sections in Article 6, Stormwater Conveyance and Management, pertaining to construction certification, which shall now be by the Planning Department, not the Commission. Lastly, amends the appeals process contained in this section pertaining to the Board of Adjustment within Article 7, Administration and Enforcement. Certification. It is hereby certified by the McCracken County Fiscal Court that the present summary represents an accurate official statement of the main points of and contents of Ordinance Number 2022-11. Public inspection. Ordinance Number 2022-11 shall be available for public inspection in its whole and complete form in the McCracken County Judge Executive Office during ordinary business hours.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. B.
It is hereby ordered that pursuant to KRS Chapter 67, the second reading and adoption of Ordinance Number 2022-12 shall be conducted in summary format as follows. McCracken County, Kentucky, McCracken County Fiscal Court, Ordinance Number 2022-12. An ordinance amending the McCracken County Administrative Code by repealing the existing Section 3.9 Open Records Policy and enacting the Model Open Records Policy, amending Section 4.6 Procurement Standards, amending Section 4.7 Capitalization Policy, amending Section 5.15 Cell Phone Policy, amending Section 6.12 Vehicle Use Policy, and amending Section 6.14 Travel Policy. Summary. The present action is mandated by KRS 61.876 and operates to repeal in its entirety the currently existing Section 3.9 of the McCracken County Administrative Code entitled Open Records Policy and enacting an entirely new Section 3.9 entitled Model Open Records Policy and establishing the duties of each specific public agency operating on behalf of McCracken County, Kentucky in relation to the same. The present action amends existing Section 4.6 Procurement, adding detail to the procedure for purchases. The present action amends existing Section 4.7 Capitalization Policy to add lease capitalization. The present action amends existing Section 5.15 Cell Phone Policy to clarify the partial reimbursement section. The present section amends Section 6.12 Vehicle Use Policy to update the procedure for document submission. The present action amends the existing Section 6.14 Travel and Expense Reimbursement to provide detail concerning the amount of reimbursement available and the procedure in which to obtain reimbursement from the county for qualified expenses. Certification. It is hereby certified by the McCracken County Fiscal Court that the present summary represents an accurate official statement of the main points of and contents of Ordinance Number 2022-12. Public inspection. Ordinance Number 2022-12 shall be available for public inspection in its whole and complete form in the McCracken County Judge Executive's Office during ordinary business hours.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. C.
It is hereby ordered and pursuant to KRS Chapter 67, the first reading of Ordinance Number 2023-02 shall be conducted in summary format as follows. McCracken County, Kentucky, McCracken County Fiscal Court, Ordinance Number 2023-02. An ordinance amending Ordinance Number 2021-12 as amended by modifying the fees charged for electrical plan reviews and inspections to ensure compliance with inspection specifications of the Kentucky Building Code as set forth in 815 KAR 7:120 and the Kentucky Residential Code as set forth in 815 KAR 7:125 to ensure McCracken County's fees are commensurate with those of comparable jurisdictions and to authorize the fiscal court and to contract with a certified electrical inspector for the performance of electrical plan reviews and inspections. Summary. The action effectuated in the present ordinance is authorized by Kentucky Revised Statute Section 198B.060, the Kentucky Building Code 815 KAR 7:120, and the Kentucky Residential Code of 815 KAR 7:125, and operates to amend the fees charged for electrical plan review and inspection services to ensure that such services are in compliance with the provisions of the aforesaid building codes, that the fees for such services are commensurate with comparable local county governments, and authorizes the McCracken County Fiscal Court to contract with a certified electrical inspectors for the performance of electrical plans and reviews. Certification, it is hereby certified by the McCracken County Fiscal Court that the present summary represents an accurate official statement of the main points of and contents of ordinance number 2023-02. Public inspection, ordinance number 2023-02 shall be available for public inspection in its whole and complete form in the McCracken County Judge Executive's office during ordinary business hours.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so that's the first reading, and then we'll have it for the second reading and adoption in our next meeting.
Just keeps us from having to adjust the fees. The fees will automatically somehow adjust as the state tells us to.
It's more has to do with the retirement that occurred. We used to, for years, hire and keep an electrical inspector on staff. Somewhat changes the way we do business. We'll collect a permit fee, and then a private inspector, once certified by the state and registered to do business with us, will take that up and do that work.
So then he'll charge there's a fee window that that person, he or she could charge.
As specified in the ordinance. Yep.
Okay.
We have, I don't know, there's at least 2 or 3 private inspectors that do that work in this area.
Okay, any other comment? D?
You have to vote.
Oh,
That's the first reading. We've had discussions whether we vote on a first reading or don't vote on a first reading. It doesn't appear that we
You have to vote on the motion.
on the motion.
Yes, we moved to listen to it, so now you have to vote that we've listened to it.
And that is the discussion that we had. All right, well, I don't know.
Was that so moved?
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. All right.
It is hereby ordered that pursuant to KRS Chapter 67, the first reading of ordinance number 2023-01 shall be conducted in summary format as follows. McCracken County, Kentucky, McCracken County Fiscal Court, ordinance number 2023-01, an ordinance amending McCracken County ordinance number 2022-04 and setting forth the current salary classification table for court security officers in the McCracken County Sheriff's Department. Summary. The action effectuated in the present ordinance is authorized by Kentucky Revised Statutes, Chapter 91A and Sections 65.210 to 65.314. The present ordinance formalizes the amending of McCracken County Ordinance Number 2022-04 and setting forth a current salary classification table for court security officers of the McCracken County Sheriff's Department. Certification. It is hereby certified by the McCracken County Fiscal Court that the present summary represents an accurate official statement of the main points of and contents of Ordinance Number 2023-01. Public inspection. Ordinance Number 2023-01 shall be available for public inspection in its whole and complete form in the McCracken County Judge Executive's office during ordinary business hours.
So moved.
second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries.
It is hereby ordered that pursuant to KRS Chapter 67, the first reading of Ordinance Number 2023-03 shall be conducted in summary format as follows. McCracken County, Kentucky, McCracken County Fiscal Court, Ordinance Number 2023-03, an ordinance creating a compensation and classification system for the McCracken County Clerk's Office. Summary. The action effectuated in the present ordinance is authorized by Kentucky Revised Statutes, Chapter 91A and Section 65.21 to 65.314. The present ordinance formalizes setting forth a current salary classification table for employees of McCracken County Clerk's Office. Certification. It is hereby certified by the McCracken County Fiscal Court that the present summary represents an accurate official statement of the main points of and contents of Ordinance Number 2023-03. Public inspection. Ordinance Number 2023-03 shall be available for public inspection in its whole and complete form in the McCracken County Judge Executive's office during ordinary business hours.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, which I think this is the fourth of salary classification tables that we will have done now. When we started 4 years ago, there weren't any salary classification tables. And Steve, I know you've done a lot of work to get us to this point. This is good human resources. Thank you. Michelle, you probably worked on it as well. But it's important for our county to have this level of transparency for the employees to know where they're headed with their salaries.
So, how did you do it before?
That's a great question.
Well, we kind of came in every, spring and started trying to figure out how much we're going to pay
Yeah.
next year
Yeah.
for the same jobs. Now this will set the scale. So they've been at this position for a number of years. We can look and see where the pay will be in next year and 5 years from now.
Oh, I'm familiar with that process. I'm familiar with that.
All right, all in favor, aye.
All right.
Opposed, no. That carries. Do we have anything else for her to read, or?
10 pages.
I am out of things to read, thank you.
Would you like a drink?
That's what I'm saying. I felt kind of bad.
Yeah, give her a drink.
There you go.
Give her
There you go.
That might not be the drink she wants. I don't know.
I will refrain from answering.
So, let's see, we don't have any need that I'm aware of for executive session. Do you know anything? So we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, no. That carries. We're gone. Thank you, everyone.